Greetings everyone and welcome. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's video comes to us courtesy of Captain Oostafish. And Captain Oostafish is playing in the Tier 10 Japanese Wall of Skill producing destroyer Shima. As the battle gets underway, it's Trap and it's Domination Match Mode. And the captain here has spawned closest to the B cap point, so he is off to the B cap point. Now, looking at the team lineup early on here in game, both teams have a destroyer neutral situation here, as it is 3 destroyers for each team. The good news is there are no carriers in play. As the captain enters into the B cap point, you'll notice that it basically starts for him just barely and then stops. And you can tell when an enemy ship is in the cap with you by that little ship icon down there under the capturing area, along with the time remaining. So that's going to tell our hero here that there is more than likely an enemy destroyer in the cap with him. Now, which destroyer that is not known just yet. Enemy Mogami pops up here. It looks like he is trying to reverse around the back side of this island. Oostafish fires off a set of torpedoes as he slams on the brake, trying not to leave the cap here, especially considering the enemy is now capping A. They're well on their way to capping C at this point, so giving them another free cap would be a bit of a problem. The Mogami disappears, more than likely back behind that island. Now you'll notice that Captain Oostafish only fired off 1 set of torpedoes, and that partly has to do with the fact that that channel is very narrow, and also the ship that he was aiming at was effectively reversing back behind that island. So wasting more than 1 set would be worthless. Plus, it's a Mogami, doesn't have a repair ability, can't recover that HP, so you don't need more than 2 torpedoes, really, to kill it, if you do manage to hit it. Enemy team looks like they did manage to briefly capture the C cap point, but then promptly left the cap point, allowing the friendly team to start capturing it. As you can see there, they're up there. They have spotted the destroyer that was potentially causing the problems up there, and capturing, of course, the enemy team still in the process of capping A, and with the exception of a lone destroyer down there, it looks like they are going to be able to take it without any kind of contention. Now, enemy Missouri pushing up into the cap here. Very, very dangerous battleship to have to deal with. Oostafish fires off 2 sets of torpedoes here at that Missouri. With any luck, he'll be able to connect a good number of those, if not outright kill him. But of course, it is a Missouri. He does have radar. Plus, if you'll notice, a smoke screen has appeared, and that Missouri is now dropped off detectability, at least briefly there, before he opened fire yet again. So we do know there is a destroyer in that smoke screen, more than likely. Oostafish manages to connect 1 torpedo on that Missouri. Not quite enough to do much to him. Does reset the cap briefly, but really the player with the most cap points there for the reset would be the destroyer, who has yet to be detected. Oostafish has his 3rd set up and available again, so he fires it off at the Missouri. With any luck, he'll connect again and cause some more flooding, which would be great here because the Missouri has clearly hit his R key and put the flooding out from the first one. And yes, it looks like he's gonna hit at least 1, 2, no, only 1. A little bit disappointing there that it was only 1. But 1 right now will be good enough, as you can see that damage counter ticking up nicely from the flooding. Missouri decides he's had enough of being harassed by these torpedoes, so he goes ahead and he pops his radar. Unfortunately for him, Captain Oostafish, or any of the other destroyers, are not in a position to be shot at by anybody on his team. The enemy team did manage to secure a first blood, taking out a cruiser. Now that's going to put them in a points lead here. Plus, combine that fact with the fact that they've got the A and C cap points completely uncontested now, does mean that they do have a points advantage coming in. But look at this, the Missouri's radar finishes off as Ustafish is doing the right thing. Really, he's running away. He's keeping that distance. Although, given that island position, he could have done anything that he wanted to. The Missouri takes continued hits, plus the flooding secures Captain Ustafish his first kill in the game. And that is a particularly dangerous battleship that definitely needed to die. Enemy cruiser up here, pushing into the cap point. Ustafish has torpedoes out there, and it looks like he's getting shots in at the Kiev there, but look at that. Gets taken out. That is unfortunate for that poor cruiser, but very fortunate for Ustafish's team, as they now have a ship's lead. Taking out 2 cruisers and a battleship there is going to keep them in the game. But again, the enemy team holding A and C, and in the process of capping B, do have a points advantage coming in for them. They are gaining points at, well, soon to be 3 times faster than Ustafish's team. Hell, Ustafish's team isn't even gaining points on the inbound there. So really, the enemy team is gaining points at a rate of at least double. And since Ustafish's team is not bringing in any points, they have the advantage. So, in this case, looking at the situation, Captain Ustafish's team really needs to coordinate their efforts. They need to push in here, and they need to start causing some problems. More importantly, they need to start taking some cap locations. The only thing that's actively and effectively keeping them in the game is that they have managed to kill so many ships. Now, Captain Ustafish, as he pushes towards the A cap point, is detected here. Shimakaze, not the stealthiest, but still pretty stealthy. But of course, given how much of a distance there, it tells you that it's going to be a pretty stealthy Japanese ship. And it is the Kagero, pretty much the stealthiest boat in the game. Ustafish has his torpedoes available, but this Kagero player is going to maneuver hard. The question is whether or not any of these are going to hit. Now, it looks like he's using the 12-kilometer torpedoes, so they're reasonably quick, and they do hit. Now you've got to avoid the Kagero's torpedoes in return, but as you can see, he's got a speed boost active, so he's going to just turn away and effectively avoid all of those torpedoes. Now, with that Kagero dead, the enemy team has also lost another one of their destroyers, so they're down to just 1 destroyer left versus Ustafish's team. Still has all 3. The Cyclone is not going to be particularly helpful for the destroyers, however, especially not Shimakaze's, Yu Yang's, Fletcher's, any of those, because you have a longer torpedo range than line of sight. However, there is an advantage here because it does mean that you are able to get line of sight on these battleships and cruisers at 8 kilometers, and you still have at least 2 kilometers to play with. And being 2 kilometers closer to your target, well, in some cases, 4 kilometers or more closer to your target does mean that your torpedoes are going to definitely reach that target quicker, and provided you don't run into something with radar or something that's running hydroacoustic, you should be able to catch them nearly off guard unless they're actually paying attention and realize they've suddenly been detected by something they cannot see. The enemy team now holds all 3 caps, though. And as you can see, they still in the points advantage in spite of losing 6 ships. They're down half their team to Ustafish's 2 ships lost on his team, but they have a points lead nearly 200 points ahead. Again, aggressive teams tend to go and win games. And while that might not seem intuitive that the aggressive team losing 6 ships here should be in the points lead, and it shouldn't pay off for them, it actually is right now. Now, they've lost yet another ship, so they're now down to 5 ships. But look at the 5 they've got left. They still have a destroyer. They have 4 battleships. And Ustafish's team has lost yet another ship. Not just 1, 2 ships. But they take out that last destroyer, the Khabarovsk, in the process. So now Ustafish has no concerns here about enemy destroyers. There's nothing that can spot him before he can spot them, unless of course he comes around the island a little too close to a conqueror. But as you can see, he just basically turns the conquerors sailing away. So distance opened up, no longer detected. He pops the smoke screen. I'm not entirely sure why, but he pops the smoke screen nonetheless. And that's really going to break the line of sight. Now you can see the Conqueror is blind firing here into what he sees as the smoke screen, and he's actually going to start turning. The question is whether or not that turn is going to be quick enough to avoid all of these torpedoes. But, as we can see here, Ustafish has laid the smoke screen, and it's actually not the smoke screen that's blocking his line of sight to the Conqueror. It is, in fact, being too far away. Now, the Conqueror's turn did, in fact, accelerate him enough, so he was able to dodge most of those torpedoes. Really disappointing there, because if he managed to hit at least 5 of those, that Conqueror would be dead. Of course, the Conqueror has decided he's going to turn around. Not the smartest move for the Conqueror player here. This is a battleship engaging a destroyer, and if he's paying attention to the number of torpedoes launched at him, he can only assume it's one of the 2 remaining, and more than likely it's the Shima that's shooting at him. So the detection range here, especially with speed boost active, is good for Captain Ustafish. He's basically just going to be able to keep the range, keep the distance, and as soon as the Cyclone lets up, he's going to be able to fire at this Conqueror with impunity with those torpedoes. Of course, something that the Conqueror is doing here is he's in the A cap, and he's preventing Ustafish's team from gaining points on the A cap. And because they've held the caps for so long, that enemy team, that Conqueror's team, is way up on points, nearly 400 points in the lead, and they're still gaining points because they still hold the B cap point. Ustafish made a gutsy move here. He fired with his guns on that Conqueror, briefly caused him to be detected, but the Conqueror disappeared into the smoke screen, which is now dissipating, and then, of course, the Conqueror now point-blank range. But look at that, his guns are pointed the wrong way. Now, he is going to make an effort to turn. He's going to do something that American Battleships players should, and more often than not, tend to do, which is turn the ship, not the guns, because, well, the ship turns quicker. But look at this. Ustafish is closing the range now. He did take a big hit there from the Conqueror's forward batteries, but the rear batteries not quite in line. Conqueror has made his turn here, but look at this. 2 more sets of torpedoes away, and that second set is all that it needed. And that's all she wrote for the Conqueror before that ship could get his rear guns lined up and finish off Captain Ustafish. More importantly now, the enemy team is down to just 1 ship left. That's it. Just 1, and it's a battleship. And he was last spotted all the way in the corner of a 10, well, B10, near the C cap point. But as you can see there, last ship on the enemy team taking a bold move, going to capture the C cap point, which is going to broadcast his position to the entirety of the friendly team. Now, the rest of the friendly team is all at the B cap point, so they're actually already in position to go up to the C cap point and start taking this guy on. Now, you might be wondering why this guy would even consider going to the C cap point and broadcasting as a location. Well, that has to do with the dynamics of playing to win. And looking at the situation, well, his team was up on points, letting the enemy team hold 3 of the caps with more than 5 minutes left in the game is only going to result in your team losing out on points. Yes, you might survive, but it's going to be a loss. At the very least, if you go to the C cap point, you can retake it and start gaining some points again. At the very least, keep that points lead just barely. Plus, depending on how the enemy team is spread out, you might be lucky enough to get them all responding back to you in such a way that you can deal with them in a one-on-one or maybe even a 1v2 situation, depending on how good of a player you are. And you can start whittling it down and kill those ships and gain and maintain that points lead going into the last 5 minutes of the game. Once you have that points lead and is sufficient enough, then all you have to do is stay alive. Now, if we look up here, friendly Montana, fairly low health. The remaining ship on the enemy team could, if he's got the shots, cause some significant problems for this Montana and potentially secure victory for his team. Now, as we can see there, though, he did take the C cap point, but Ustafish's team is already retaking that location. And that remaining battleship, well, he's trying hard. He is legitimately trying hard, and as we can see there, he's about half health. Now, this is partly because, again, the remaining 4 ships on Ustafish's team, they were already in a position to go in and deal with him and cause him some serious problems. So they're basically all just ganging up on him. It's a 4 versus 1 fight. And while Ustafish has got his speed boost active here, it's highly unlikely that he's even going to get into gun range, let alone torpedo range, before this battleship is dead. And see, more big hits there. He's got a Baltimore shooting at him. He's got a Lion shooting at him. He's got pretty much everybody just taking shots at him. And that's going to be the end of that Iowa, finishing him off. Ustafish doing a very good job here. 145,000 damage, dealing a hardcore damage to that Conqueror there at the very end. And, you know, that Conqueror did try, just wasn't good enough. Close, but no banana. With a result like that, plus that solo base capture and the 2 base defense ribbons there, Ustafish actually ends up top of the team for XP earned at 2,100 base XP. The next nearest player being that Lion, 1,900 base XP. So overall, very good on his team's part. Again, though, the aggressive team really did have that advantage right up until they lost too many ships. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to have me take a look at or just see featured on my channel, you can do so by sending it to my email address. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.